It's absolutely fascinating the way that Blake takes the songs of innocence and transforms them into these songs of experience. So many of the elements from Innocence carry over to experience. And what he seems to be showing through that carryover is that our original vision of innocence is true and good, but it's only one side of the experience of life. That other side of experience, sorrow in a way, is another aspect of our existence that we have to acknowledge. The way we see this carry over in this first great poem is in the parallels in the poem and in the plate. If you notice in the poem, first off, we hearken back to Infant Joy in the first series. The original poem, Infant Joy, is 2 stanzas. So it's the same structure, essentially, as this poem. But in that poem, Infant Joy, it talks first off from the perspective of the newborn child, and the child is saying, I am joy, call me joy. And there's a second voice that says, what should I call you? It says, call me joy, because I'm happy, I'm joyful in the world, I give pleasure to everybody around me, I am like a flower. And we see the original plate having a flower, a large red flower, and around that flower is the baby and the mother and an angel. This happy kind of Trinitarian image. Well, in this plate and in this poem, we see something similar but different. First off, notice it's 2 stanzas again. If you see this in the plate up here, the poem occupies the upper part of the plate. And it's 2 stanzas, just like in Infant Joy. Only here, the voice is without an accompanying voice. There's no parental response saying, what should I call you? The child speaking says, I came into this world and my mother groaned and my father wept and I struggled against my swaddling bands. I felt like I was in a prison house. And that whole sense of being born into a world here where the world itself is like bonds upon us, holding us in, constraining us. Rather than simply being joyful and seeing the world as beautiful, here we see the world as confining, as constricting, and the child being a burden on the parents and exhausting to the parents. Speaking as a father, this is very true. Children give great joy, but they're also exhausting. When you spend so much time awake at night, walking up and down with them, or the whole trauma of giving birth, or the whole trauma, for instance, of hoping your kid doesn't get hurt, that's a lot of anxiety. So coupled with all the joy, there's also this sorrow, both at the same time. And the voice in the poem says, I was bound and I was weary, and so I sulked. And notice in the plate, he's very clever here, that the flower from the original, the red flower, is now the mother herself. The mother is all done in red. And she is the flower who now apparently is getting up in order to help the struggling child who is struggling and calling out for help. And the mother comes to him. So in the experience, we have both the experienced mother, happy to have the child, but exhausted nevertheless. And we have the child, who is not just simply saying the world is great and beautiful, but also the world is great and beautiful, and I'm hungry, and I'm confined, and I'm cold, and change my diaper, and all this. So that all those elements that are a part of human life, both joy and sorrow, are in this poem, because that's what life is about. It's that combination. It's not just joy. It's not just misery. It's a combination of the two brought together.